ओके। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम एंड अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मैं हूं जामिन सिद्दीकी एंड वेलकम टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल। टुडे आई हैव विद मी द फेमस ऑस्ट्रेलियन स्पोर्ट्स journalist Dennis Freedman, who recently also visited Pakistan for the PSL. So, Dennis, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Zaman. I struggle with the introduction that I'm either famous or a sports journalist, but I'll take your praise and I'll run with it just for now.
No, you are a pride of Pakistan. You have displayed a positive image of our country on all your platforms, and thank you for that. So, first of all, Dennis, how's your quarantine life going?
I've got used to it now. I think, what are we, week 10 or week 11? It's funny, when I left Pakistan March the 8th or 9th from the PSL, and when I landed back in Melbourne, I went to work for a week, and then they said, actually, you should probably go into quarantine because it was starting to get bad. So the second week I was in quarantine, like working from home, and then I just stayed since mid-March, and now we're in mid-June, and I've been working from home, and I'm to be honest, I'm enjoying the freedom of not having to go into the office every day, and I've learned some new tricks and tools using Skype and Microsoft Teams and Zoom and all these things. And here in Melbourne, the restrictions are starting to lift. We've had a very good run with social distancing, and the people here in Australia typically doing the right thing. Although, as I speak today, there was in Melbourne a Black Lives Matter march, which I understand the emotive reasons why you would want to have a march about Black Lives Matter. But I struggle with why tens of thousands of people right now, when we're at the end of breaking the pandemic, would want to go and put everything at risk. Just put a black square on your Instagram. We understand the sentiment. The world understands. Have a march later. But I'm really worried that we're about to have a second wave of this bloody virus because young neoliberals have decided that it doesn't matter what the rules are. They're better than the rules, and they will just ignore social distancing. And I know that Pakistan is having the same problems. I've seen it. I've seen the images of people going to the funerals or to mosques to pray, or just ignoring the guidelines around social distancing and washing your hands and staying at home. And I cannot emphasize enough to your listeners in Pakistan, because Pakistan is having a very tough time right now with this virus. Stay the hell at home. Do not go outside. You need to do this, otherwise people will die. Full stop. There's no debate. Everywhere in the world where people have not stayed at home, people die. And that could be your mother, your grandmother, your uncle, your auntie, your best friend. It could be you. So why risk it for the sake of some dumb thing? Stay at home, please.
Okay. Dennis, I read your history. You were redundant from a high corporate job. And so explain your journey from being fired from a highly corporate job to a famous sports journalist. How did that happen?
I don't know. I wasn't fired. I was made redundant. They're very different things. Fired implies that I was doing a poor job. Made redundant is when the job no longer exists. So it was definitely the second one. But so that was in 2012. I can tell you now, it was September 2012. And back then, the job I got fired from was from a big Australian listed company on the stock exchange. And I was the general manager of a division called Leisure, Sport and Entertainment, which essentially meant that every day I was spending time at the MCG, at racetracks, at the Formula One tracks, at the tennis clubs, because all my clients were the sporting grounds. So I was always involved in sport, and I've been very interested in the business of sport because of my background. I'm a businessman at heart. And so I got made redundant in September 2012. And between then and starting another job, I had 3 months. And if my memory serves me correctly, I that's when I discovered Twitter. And I started an account, a parody account called Richie Benno. And I was making tweets with jokes as Richie Benno might tell a joke. So it was trying to use his voice. And in those days, there wasn't many parody accounts. So it grew very quickly. And I had about 45,000 followers in about 6 weeks. And every single cricketer you can name and every commentator and every journalist was following this account, including guys like Kevin Peterson, including Piers Morgan, like everybody. And then I made a joke about Dean Jones. And I tweeted, so there's a long story here. It's really interesting how it comes around. But Quetta Gladiators player Fawad Ahmed, you would know him. The leg spinner.
Yeah, obviously. I know
So
him.
he had just taken Australian citizenship and from Pakistan, and he was picked in the ODI team for Australia, but he refused to wear the logo of the beer company that was the sponsor, which was Victorian Bitter, VB. And I made a joke that said, Fawad Ahmed is refusing to wear the VB logo. Dean Jones is reporting that he's replaced it with a leading brand of explosives. And the joke was because Dean Jones had called Hashim Amla a terrorist live on air, if you can remember back
Yeah,
in the day.
yeah.
So what happened was that some journalists, and one guy in particular in the UK, who I won't name, decided to deliberately misread the joke and say that I was being racist when I was actually making a joke about Dean Jones being racist. And it blew up. And then James Sutherland made a press release saying Richie Benno doesn't have a Twitter account. It's a fake account. And Dean Jones came out and said, I never said such a thing. And then Twitter shut the account. So Cricket Australia put some pressure on them. And I just thought, how disappointing. I've built something and now it's gone. But it gave me the confidence to just do it by myself because I was writing for some magazines and publications under the pseudonym of Richie Benno, like fake Richie Benno. And so, in fact, that summer I had written for the Cricketer magazine in the UK as Richie Benno. And the ads that they used to put out were, for the Ashes this summer, we have, I had Merv Hughes and fake Richie Benno, Twitter celebrity. So, so on the back of that, I started my own account, my own name. I started my own website, dennisdoescricket.com. And I decided I would just write. And I wrote like crazy. Every day I was writing something. And most of the time it was parody. So I was doing fake press releases or funny stories or taking the piss out of something. And then every now and then I got the urge to write something serious. So if the team selections would come out for Australia, I'd write a critical piece around why this player should be picked or that player should be picked or not picked. And then they got some traction, and then I got invited to write for different online publications. And that ultimately, what happened is that Dawn newspaper in Pakistan, which is the biggest English newspaper in the world, if you believe it, because of the population in Pakistan, reached out to me and said, please come and write for us. And that's when I knew I could write, because before then I was writing a lot for Indian publications. But with Dawn, they put it into print so that I was in the newspaper, not on the screen.
Okay.
And Hassan Zaidi, who was my editor, sent me the clippings of the first 2 pieces I wrote, which I got framed, and I still have them and I hang them up here. And so that's when I knew that I could write, and I was a decent writer, and the feedback I was getting was fantastic, and it helped grow my affinity and my love with Pakistan. obviously, because I had to write Pakistani content.
Okay.
But parallel to that, I also started a podcast in 2013 with some very good friends called Can't Bowl, Can't Throw. And that was the world's leading cricket podcast up until maybe 2018. And we just grew out of it. After it was going 5 or 6 years, and not that it got stale because it was going really well. We actually got invited to go onto a radio station here in Australia, and we had the show became a weekly live cricket show, which is the only one ever in Australia. There was a live cricket show live on air, and so that created amazing things. But I just grew sick of it, and it still continues now with my old friends. They still continue, but I
Okay.
jumped off. And then also parallel, I started doing some video and YouTube things, just trying to understand it and learn it. And that there's a whole nother journey that ended up me making the
Okay.
Pakistan documentary, Dennis Does Pakistan, which is just a crazy story that culminated with me going to Imran Khan's house in Bani Gala and asking him for a selfie. Like, it's just nuts. And then PSL 3 I did, and then PSL 5 I've obviously just done, thanks to Multan Sultans and Quetta Gladiators. They invited me. And so just, the more I wrote, the luckier I became. The more I
Yeah.
spoke, the luckier I became. The more I tweeted, the more I did Facebook, the luckier I became. And the more risks I took, the luckier I became, the more haters I got. But it created, it just created more and more opportunities for me to try and do new things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Dennis, you recently visited Pakistan for PSL 5. How was your overall experience, and did you enjoy the food here?
The overall experience was something I will never forget. For so many reasons. It was my second trip to Pakistan, so I was very comfortable going, obviously. I was staying with the teams, with Multan and Quetta and their owners, so I was very close to the owners of both, with Ali Khan, Tareen, and also the Omar family from Quetta, and they treated me like family. I got to ride in the cavalcades to and from the grounds. I had ground access passes, which I was extremely fortunate to have, because most journalists weren't allowed to go onto the grounds. So that gave me access to a lot of things. I got to meet everybody that I wanted to meet, including I always wanted to meet, because he's my favorite player of all time, is Shahid Afridi. And he reached out to me and introduced himself to me. And I still buzz about that day. I was walking past a lift in Multan, and he was at the lift talking to some friends or something, and he called me over. He said, "Hey, bloody Gora." And he called me over and he shook my hand and introduced himself and said, "Thank you for what I'm doing." And I was like, I'd seen him so many times, but I just avoided him because I didn't want to be that fanboy, that annoying guy, because in Pakistan, all the journalists and all the people just hound all these cricketers. And so I didn't want to be that person. So I was giving them some space, unless I was waiting for the right time via the Multan guys to do an interview with him or something. But he dragged me over. Anyhow, I got to know him a little bit through the journey. And, he and I, we disagree maybe on the role of women in cricket. But if you put that aside, you're allowed to have disagreements in life. The work that he is doing with the Shahid Afridi Foundation, the way that he is supporting the poor people, children, for education, the way that he's promoting Pakistan, like he's my God. I just find him a phenomenal human being. Again, I repeat, I don't agree with his stance with his daughters not being able to play cricket, but that's just a thing we disagree on. But everything else, I've got a lot of time for his humanitarianism. So my experience allowed me to do things like that. I got to mess around with Waqar Yunus. I got to get got to meet all my old journalist friends again that I'd met online or last time when I was in Pakistan. I met just all of that, and then ate and tried all the food, of course. the one thing I love about Pakistani food is most of it, like the best Pakistani food is when it's in the street, cooked on coals, when the meat's cooked on coals. And I love barbecue. So, and I love spice. And every time I come to Pakistan, I lose weight because I eat really healthy and I drink a lot of juice. Whereas in Australia, I eat really poorly, eat a lot of chocolate and drink a lot of beer. So it's good for me.
Okay. Dennis, unfortunately, Omar Akmal got banned for 3 years in this PSL due to match fixing allegations on him. Do you think this ban was justified and a bit harsh on him? And what should be done to stop these types of corruption and activities in cricket? What should be done in your opinion?
Excellent question. So just to be factual, he wasn't banned for match fixing. He was banned for failing to report a bookie speaking to him. So the backstory is this: the most ridiculous thing is my hotel room was on the same floor as his. The night that he got dragged out of his hotel room at 3:00 in the morning, by whichever Pakistani agency it was, and that night, Nadeem Omar, the owner of Quetta Gladiators, had to go into his room and pack his bags himself. So that was sad. That the story that some of the stories come out, but the actual story, and I heard this firsthand from one of the I'll say one of the people that is in one of the police bureaus that was following this, was that a particular, I'll use the term detective for the sake of this discussion. I'm not going to say who it was or which department. Had just out of his own fruition thought that he would get Umar Akmal followed in the lead up to the PSL because he thought there's a history here maybe, or he had an inkling. He was approached twice. He was caught twice on tape, on video, with the bookie in question. Twice this particular department called Umar Akmal in and said, "Is there anything you want to tell us?" And twice he said no. So at this stage, the PCB did not know. So the department twice interviewed Umar, and Umar said, "I got nothing to say," even though they told him, "We have you on tape." So the night before the PSL, when he failed the second time to come clean, they reported him to the PCB, and the PCB just pulled him out. So that's what happened. Now, do I think the ban is fair? I don't ever think that bans for anything to do with corruption go far enough, ever. If you are caught fixing, any type of fixing, match fixing, spot fixing, you should be banned for life. That's it. Go and do something else. Go and work in a shoe shop. Go and become a baker. Drive a taxi. Go make a living some other way, because cricket is a gift. And if you choose to take a shit on the gift that you've been given to try and make money for yourself at the expense of your team and everybody else, you don't deserve that gift anymore. If you fail to report bookies talking to you, the ban should be 2 years or more. Look at Bangladesh with Shakib Al Hasan. He's the captain of Bangladesh. He knows as well as any other current player that when you get an approach by a bookie, you need to report it, and he did not. And so he got a big ban. Umar Akmal, unfortunately, the 3-year ban, you could argue, is harsh, but the guy has baggage. So you can't just say, the guy's been caught with prostitutes and girls in a room the night before a match when in the UAE. He's been all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So, and he's a senior guy, and there comes a point in life where if you don't learn your lesson, the lesson will teach you pretty harshly. And I don't have an issue with 3 years. Yes, I think it's maybe slightly on the hard scale, but I still think it's within the scale of reasonable. I think people, like, if you go back, how the the hell Sharjeel Khan is playing PSL after physically fixing a match in the same tournament that he played in 2 years earlier, and then how someone from Karachi decides that picking him is a good idea and that the PSL allows that to happen just does my head in. I don't understand that at all. I can't understand. That would be like in your job. I don't know what you do, but you steal from your employer, they sack you, and then you apply for the job 2 years later and they go, come back, please come back. Like, it makes no sense. You have 1 billion cricketers in Pakistan and you want to go back to that guy. It makes no sense to me that Mohammed Irfan failed to report and only got 6 months. It makes no sense to me that the Khayyam report is there from 2000 with so many big names in there, and all the facts that are in that report were unchallenged by any of the players. Everybody agreed that the facts were correct. Now, you can dispute the punishments because that's subjective, but the facts were 100% correct. And there's guys in there like Wasim Akram, who for some reason is treated like a god, despite the fact that he got a witness, Ada Al Rahman, to perjure himself to protect his own ass. And I just, it's unfathomable to me that he's still allowed around the circles of Pakistani cricket because he was a good player, or that Mohammed Amir was a good player, so therefore we excuse him. But Salman Butt wasn't quite as good looking and a little bit older, so we don't excuse him. Like, I don't understand this part of Pakistani culture. Now, yes, I keep getting accused, oh, what about Mark Waugh? What about Shane Warne and the cover-up from Cricket Australia? That was horrible, shouldn't have happened. Mark Waugh should never have been an Australian selector. I've said that a million times. But they never fixed the match. All they did was fail to report. So they should have had a 2-year ban and that's it. Right? That's it. There should not have been a cover-up. But they didn't fix anything. And then people go, oh, what about Sandpaper, Steve Smith and Warner? They didn't fix a match. They tried to win the match. So
Yeah.
yeah. Cheating to win is very different from cheating to lose. Cheating to lose, you line your own pockets. Cheating to win, you're trying to line everybody's pockets because you want your team to win. You've just lost context of what's actually acceptable. But it's a very different crime to cheating to lose. So there you go. There's my big views on all of that. All of that is very consistent with everything I've ever written, everything I've ever said. And I've said this. I've said this. Yeah. And I've been very public with this in Pakistan. I've been very public with this with people that work with some of these players, and coach some of these players and are teammates of some of these players. Like, I'm not hiding behind it. I'm not scared of it. It's a view that I have, and I'm very strong about it. And I think until we almost too strong with this stuff, you will always have this scourge on the game. And so I don't have any issues saying that Karachi Kings at the moment is not a franchise I want to deal with because it has Amir, Sharjeel. There's question marks over Dean Jones. When Dean Jones was first appointed coach at Islamabad United, there were a lot of senior Pakistani ex-players who said, I can't believe you picked Dean because there's a lot of question marks from his time when I played with him. So, like, there's a lot of things going on there, and until people can cleanse themselves, the best, I tell you what, for all the shit that he did, at least I have some respect for Lance Armstrong because he sat down, faced the camera, and said, I did it. And at least he drew a line in the sand, said, enough is enough, I did it, I will take my punishment and move on. And it takes the heat out of everything. There's no more games, right? When is Wasim Akram going to sit down, face the camera and say, I did it, let's draw a line in the sand for the betterment of Pakistani cricket and world cricket. Let me take the heat for my reputation. Let me do whatever, but it's done, finished. Yes, it's true. I did these things.
Okay. Dennis, who have got a very much huge fan following in Pakistan, and people here love you a lot. But at the same time, you have got a huge number of haters from India. As you troll Gautam Gambhir and other Indian cricketers a lot, and the fans abuse you for that. So what's the main reason you mostly troll Indian cricketers? What's the main reason?
I don't just troll Indian cricketers. It's just that when I troll an Indian cricketer, that there's 1.2 billion people that just get angry. If I troll a Pakistani cricketer, the Pakistani followers laugh. If I troll an Indian cricketer, they threaten to rape my mother. And so it just has a bigger impact. And obviously, I think Pakistanis get some joy out of seeing the Gora throw some bombs over the fence. But I troll everybody. I troll when the Ashes is on. I'm trolling England. When Australia is doing poorly, I'm trolling Australia. Right now, I'm trolling David Warner every day because his TikToks are ridiculous. But in Australia, no one comes back and goes, "Oh, you hate Australia. I hope a dog, bloody rapes your sister," or all the crap that comes from India. In India, I make a joke about Virat Kohli making a duck, and all of a sudden, I'm anti-India. That's part A. Part B is I've got, I've learnt a lot about your part of the world now, and so I have an interest in the geopolitical situation. And there's some things currently going on in India that I just don't like, with the BJP, with Kashmir. And the reason I go after Gambia is I think he, as an elected official, he's doing the exact opposite of what his job is to do. His job is to bring peace and prosperity to his people, and he's a warmonger. He's chasing war. He chases hate. And so I'm calling out the behaviors. I don't like those behaviors. I don't like the CAA legislation. I don't like Modi stepping into Kashmir and just ignoring treaties that have been signed in good faith against the UN's wishes and the people's wishes. I don't like any of that. For the same reasons I don't like blasphemy laws in Pakistan. For the same reason I don't like that the way that the Pakistani government silences the media in Pakistan. I don't like how journalists keep getting shot in Pakistan. I speak about all these things. Every country has problems. I don't like the way that in Australia we've treated the Aborigines. I don't like a whole lot of stuff. But when I call these things out in India, for some reason it starts World War III. When I call it out in any other country, most of the time you can have a reasoned debate.
Oh, okay. Dennis, here's my third last question from you. Dennis, people, especially from India, say that you are being paid by the PCB and the Pakistani government to troll the India overall and their cricketers. So what's your take on that?
I've never taken a cent from the Pakistani government, including ISPR, which I keep getting accused of. In fact, ISPR have never even approached me. I had one general once asked me, would I like an introduction to ISPR? And I said no, because once I start taking government money, I've lost my right to independence. And I have never taken 1 cent from the PCB or the PSL. And in fact, secretly deep down, I think the PCB wish I would go away because they see me as a risk. There's a lot of people in the PCB, I believe, that aren't very comfortable when I'm around, because I speak my own mind. I'll do what I think is right. And sometimes that narrative doesn't fit with what the PCB wants. And this is a problem, not just the PCB, but also West Indies cricket, also the BCCI. The culture here in Australia is very different. Cricket Australia and the media have a strong relationship because both parties are allowed the freedom to express themselves and then debate the issues. So if I came out and wrote a scathing piece against Cricket Australia, and I did when they, so the last one I wrote was about media rights and some issues just before Sandpaper Gate and some of the ethics that was going on. I wrote one about gambling sponsorships. I've written lots of things, but they don't black ban you. They don't ring you up and scathe you. They just accept it as part of the storytelling and the narrative, and it's part of how the game works. But in Pakistan or in India, if you write something bad about the PCB or the BCCI, all of a sudden your accreditation gets taken away, or you get less access to people. And for example, I'll tell you now, I reckon at the moment there's people in the PCB are blocking me access to people because I've asked for a couple of interviews, and I've been told, oh no, they're not available at the moment. Next minute, they're doing an interview with somebody else. So, so I think culturally we're just different. As an Australian, I'm used to having the freedom of speech and being able to tackle institutions, both positive and negative. And to be fair, I've given more positive feedback to the PCB than negative, but it's not a one-sided coin, and the PCB is not perfect. Neither is any institution. And so fair criticism, properly reasoned criticism is something that they should embrace, like the BCCI should. So I've never taken their money because the same problem exists. You know, if I take PCB money or PSL money, then I can only be positive about what's going on. I worked with the official digital partner at PSL3, and I was told when I worked with that partner, whatever content you make has to be positive. And so I told myself that's like, I don't want to fall into that trap again, because not unfortunately, the reality of cricket is there's positive and negative, and you can't just tell one side of the story. Otherwise you don't tell the right story and everything becomes boring. And the best stories is where there's controversy, and the PCB hates controversy. And I reckon if the PCB embraced controversy and allowed people to say what they thought and debated it hard and came out and had the debates with the journalists and stopped trying to sweep things under the carpet and had open discourse with journalists, they would have a much better relationship with the market. People would respect them more for not being parchy or not doing this and not doing that. But again, I think that's just a cultural clash. As an Australian, we're free to speak our minds. We do it everywhere. We talk politics, religion, and sex everywhere we are. In Pakistan, you can't. That's just the difference. So, no, I have never taken money from the Pakistan government. I've never taken money from ISPR. I've never taken money from PSL, and I've never taken money from PCB. Everything I've done has been by myself. I've had a few sponsors along the way, but they're corporate sponsors. They're not from the institutions.
Okay, Dennis, how do you rate PSL out of the all T20 leagues? We are having Big Bash, PSL, no, sorry, IPL, Manzi Super League, PPL. How do you rate PSL out of these?
It's now the second best league in the world. IPL is the best league. It's got the most money. It attracts the best talent. I question the motives of the team owners. They're all in it for money. And the BCCI is clearly in it for money. Whereas, every league has a different reason for existing. So the Big Bash used to exist. The Big Bash used to exist to get women and kids into the game. Now it's turned into a way to make money, and it's lost its ability or its essence of probably being the best league overall in the world. It's probably now the third best. The IPL is purely about money. It's just about everyone can get rich. And you can see it playing out now where the BCCI is saying, forget the T20 World Cup. Let's just scrap it and just play the IPL. Like that's just purely blatantly saying, fuck the world. We'll just do whatever's best for us. The PSL is very different. The PSL has 6 team owners. I've met 5 of them, and those 5 that I've met all have the same ambition, which is to try and grow cricket in Pakistan, create opportunities for the kids in Pakistan and hope, and to bring cricket back to Pakistan. And they've achieved so much of that. And none of these teams have made a profit. Last year, even when in PSL 5, when it was looking like everyone would make money, then the tournament got ripped apart by COVID. So these guys have put their hands in their own pockets for the greater good, and they work together to do good things. It's the second highest paying league in the world behind the IPL in terms of player payments. It had 35 or 36 internationals this year, and it had some big ones. It had Alex Hales, Moeen Ali, Chris Lynn, Shane Watson, Dale Steyn. There were some big names playing now in this tournament and in Pakistan, which tells me that people now feel comfortable and safe coming back to Pakistan, and that the quality of cricket is there. So I think next year, PSL 6, assuming it goes ahead, you're going to see another level up again of the people that put their hands up to come. What really needs to happen is the BCCI needs to pull their finger out of their backside and allow Indians to come and play. BCCI needs to allow Indians go and play first-class cricket overseas and whatnot. And let's create a world game rather than these siloed boards. But the PSL, the quality of the cricket, the quality of the bowling was better than the quality of the batting from what I saw. The batting wasn't great this year. And the domestic players' batting was really poor. If there was no international batsman this year, the PSL standard would have been not great. So I think the international batsmen raised the level up to a good standard. So I'm expecting more from the local batsmen next year. But having said that, there was so many really good young kids that you came out and saw that were given a chance that the PSL creates for them. So for that reason alone, for what it represents and the hope that it is bringing, it's my favourite tournament. But it's probably the second best in terms of cricket.
Okay, Dennis, here's my last question from you. Who's your best friend from the Pakistani media and from the cricketers? Who's your best friend?
I don't think there's a best friend. I think I've been lucky enough to create a circle and a group of. I get on so well with the Pakistani media. Like everybody from the big names like Zainab Abbas, and Mazhar Rashad and these guys, Waqar Yunus, just get on really well with these guys. You right down to some of the young kids who have just started reporting on their first games in this PSL. And, it's interesting. I really enjoy coaching the young kids and giving them some advice and some inspiration to try and not be intimidated by the older suite. Even Mirza Baig, these kind of guys like this, and Asif Khan and Abdul Ghaffar. Like there's so many great friends I've made, Adil Azhar that I've made through this. But Fazila Sabah, I can go on and on. I've just created such a wonderful group. Furkan Bhatti, I can keep going. But these are guys and girls that are just friends. I've done 2 campaigns with them at PSL 3, PSL 5 now, and then we get through social media. You get to know each other. But it's the young kids coming through, the 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old at his first game, nervous. They're the ones I really enjoy getting to know because if I can impart some confidence with them or some tips on how to follow their dreams, because there's so many people that want to get into cricket journalism, obviously. And if I can share some truths with them and some of the good things and the bad things, I really enjoy that. On the cricketing side, it's really interesting. I have a lot of contacts in the Pakistan cricket world, but I haven't deliberately gone and created any. I've got a couple, but I haven't really deliberately gone and chased deep friendships with too many cricketers because I think 2 things. One is everybody's trying to be a cricketer's best friend, and so I just find that a bit crass. And if you generally click with somebody, that's the thing. That you shouldn't just try and click with them because they're a cricketer. And the second thing is you lose a little bit of independence. If probably my closest person at the PSL was maybe Fawad Ahmed. Obviously, he lives in Melbourne. We get on really well. He's been very helpful for my whole journey. And Shan Masood is the other one. We've known each other for a while now. And when I first came to Pakistan in 2017, those 2 guys helped me a lot. But you can't abuse that friendship because at some times you need to say, hey, Shan, you're batting like shit. Or Fawad, you're bowling like crap. It's time to retire. And if you get too close, it becomes very hard. And I've seen in Australia, there's a few big name journalists that have got way too close to the players and never write anything that's controversial, even when it's screaming to be written because they're scared of upsetting their relationships or their access to players. The same happens in Pakistan. happens in England with a few guys. So I'm probably one step back from the players than I am with the journalists. The journalists are colleagues. The players, they're my material. And so if I get too, like, you have to balance the trust, but also they have to respect that I'm my own voice. I'm not their voice. So to do that, you can't get overly close.
Okay, Dennis, any message to your fans?
Just thank you. I don't know why you follow me. I have no idea, but I'm grateful that you do. If ever you see me out and about, or if ever you reach out to me, I will do my level best to respond to you. And I know a lot of people do message me, and I have an auto reply, but it's because I get maybe 20 or 30 messages a day on every platform. So it's hard. But thank you. Please understand, I'm a storyteller, and I primarily use humor as a way to express my thoughts and my stories. So don't make the choice to be offended by anything that I write. They're just jokes. They're there for laughs. And when I write seriously, enjoy that. I haven't done that for a while. But yeah, together, especially in Pakistan, my Pakistani fans, together, let's all continue to help grow Pakistani cricket. Let's get cricket back fully. Let's remove all the restrictions, all the security protocols. Let's help build the perceptions and change the perceptions about your country. Every interaction I've had in Pakistan or with Pakistani people has just been phenomenal. You guys are, and I've said this on the video on Dennis Does Pakistan. Pakistanis and Australians are very similar culturally. You guys like to laugh at yourselves. We enjoy friendships and each other's company. We love our sport. You guys probably get a little bit too passionate about some things than I do, but that's part of the mystique and part of what makes you guys special as well. So thank you everybody for following. Stay on board. Don't jump off. You'll have a lot of fun.
Okay, so guys, here was Dennis Freedman with us. Dennis, thank you so much for taking your precious time out for this interview. So guys, that's all from you, and Dennis, bye.